Hello everyone, and welcome to another game of World of Warships. Today's replay is from Marceau 9000, and he is in the Marceau, at tier 10 French destroyer. He's on the map north in a 3-point domination game. It's a pure tier 10 battle. There is no carrier, which is lovely, but there are 3 raiders. Well, I guess there is a Minotaur that could also be a raider. And while he's divisioned with another destroyer, the Holland, they are the only destroyers here, and obviously they both spawned on this flank. And they've already found some lovely raiders. So there's the Moskva here, which means they can't really go in there. Like, as a Marceau, you're not the best cap contester, simply because your concealment is very bad. And with not having a smoke screen, right, there is like you just get spotted and you'll have no way to disappear, so you're just forced to run away, and that means you aren't gonna camp. Now the Holland has also no smoke but better concealment. Problem currently are just the raiders, right? We see both Stalingrads are here. The Moskva has already raided. That one Stalingrad is currently unspotted but looked like it's on the way. The other Stalingrad, maybe it's staying further in the back. Now it looks like the friendly Holland might be going for B. Grabbing B could be a pretty decent strategy here. And we do have some forces going for A, right? It looks like an enemy Marceau kept A, but the Marceau doesn't have any help. So if those people just push in there, that would work. Meanwhile, Marceau is just doing what French like to do best, and that's sailing around and pew-pewing stuff. And I mean, pew-pewing a Stalingrad is obviously very satisfying, but the problem, of course, is, as you can see, like, you can see the indicator here, right? It takes about 19 seconds for the shells to reach where the Stalingrad already is. And the Stalingrad is at the very edge of his range, which means if the Stalingrad sails further away, he'll just sail outside of his range anyway. But, you know, I mean, like, 19 seconds is a very long time for an enemy ship to, you know, change their maneuvering. Now, no ship has been destroyed so far, which is interesting. And the friendlies on the left flank are slowly encroaching upon A. Now the problem, of course, is, right, there's 4 ships that are probably not engaging anything right now, that are just going towards an empty map. If the Marceau is still here, then at least one enemy is tied up, but for all we know, the Marceau is still here, okay. If the Marceau would have left, then we'd have 4 ships that are basically not doing much. Although, like, I mean, taking the cap is obviously important. Don't misunderstand. I'm just not sure if all of those ships are needed over there. Meanwhile, the Moskva is slowly getting whittled down. The enemy has a really large force. You know, the Stalingrads are going away, but the Moskva is obviously still here, which means capping is still not really an option. The gearing also still relatively close.
Problème résolu, chef.
Now on the bright side, the friendlies are also pushing into B. The enemy is focusing so hard on C that they are basically ignoring everything else on the map. And the enemy isn't really using the force at C right now to push. I mean, even better is, right, that the raiders are actually positioning themselves in a way that they can't spot the destroyers anymore. So A has been taken, that Marceau is in full retreat, and the friendlies are pushing through here. But the enemy is right now have basically a great opportunity, because there's so many friendly ships that are not really participating right now. The enemy could use their forces at sea to, like, push in here and crush some friendlies, but so far they don't seem too willing to do that. Meanwhile, Marceau is just gonna enter this camp, top the smoke screen, because, well, somebody is still in there. Hearing out. And he's actually taking the cap right now. Now the Moskva by now is gone, and that's a good thing, because, you know, the enemy Moskva was the only raider ship that actually tried to use his raider to defend the cap. And the Stalingrads, one of them might be coming back. We'll see. I mean, the gearing could also peek out here and spot him, I guess. But the gearing smokescreen is on cooldown, so maybe the gearing isn't happening. Oh! Yeah, okay, I don't think we have to worry about that. So the friendlies are currently 1 ship ahead, and you know, once they've captured C, they are in a very great spot because they'll have 2 caps and the enemy will have none. And the friendlies might even get B because look at that, the enemy has also completely given up on B.
Boost des moteurs désactivé.
Now, what's a bit more interesting is here on the A side, we have a Bourgogne and a Moskva who are chasing the Marceau, I guess? You see, that's not going to be very productive, I feel. I mean, sure, with the Moskva they have a radar there, but the Marceau is very quick, right? The Marceau can stay out of their range, definitely. And if they don't have RPF, then they don't even know where exactly the Marceau has gone. For all we know, the Marceau is already, you know, all in the center, and they are just uselessly sailing towards the zone. So while, I mean, on the one hand, right, if you have a destroyer behind you that just turns around and caps A, it's not gonna be good. But, like, the chances of actually catching the Marceau are very slim, and now currently you have 2 ships not really doing much. Anyway, meanwhile, there are 2 Kremlins coming around. Kampfsau is ready. Now, he doesn't want to get too close because that could be problematic. But he wants to be close enough that he can make sure some torps hit. Now we've got a fire, we've got some torps on the way. The Kremlin hasn't damage con just yet. I mean, Kremlin damage con is a very short cooldown anyway, I guess. But yeah, the Kremlin is not falling for the fire. But you know, with the amount of corpse he's eating. Yeah, okay, I don't think we have to crown ourselves with damage cons here. So, it's 1 Kremlin gone. Let's start working on the next one. By now, you know, it's looking actually very good. The friendlies are ahead basically on all fronts. They still have those 2 ships chasing a Marceau, but currently it doesn't necessarily look like they are needed. Now the question is obviously how the friendly team is going to handle that. We have some people who pushed through B here. Like, the sad thing is that potentially would open up a crossfire if there were ships still at sea, but they are not really. Like, there's a Stalingrad here and obviously our Marceau and Halland. But you don't have too many, like, big guns. You don't have a battleship here, right? The enemy Stalingrad and the Conqueror are I mean, only the Stalingrad is sort of creating this crossfire. And all of the enemies are in one block, basically. So if you are not careful, if you're just pushing here 1 at a time, then everybody's just getting focused down, and that's an easy way for the enemy to get a comeback. Because honestly, the enemy needs to make a move here, right? The friendlies hold all the cards. Ideally, they'd have some forces here around C and just, like, you know, you see this? There are only a few enemies that are actually pushing. If the friendlies had, like, a large force here behind C, they could just pick those off 1 by 1 and have an easy victory, I guess. Meanwhile, Kampfsau's new test target is a Conqueror. And, well, maybe he can set it on... Oh, no, wait, it's the Stalingrad. You know, sometimes in the replay it's just like the target that's selected is not really the target that's selected, but hey, who would have expected things to work in this game anyway? So, anyway, Conqueror is down and the Stalingrad is now the next target. Both Stalingrads are back now in a position where the radars are actually a problem to the destroyers if they want to fight for camps. Oh, a Minotaur is also joining them there. Once again, I can't help but feel like if the friendlies had more ships down here, right? Like, and the Moskva and the Bourgogne, they still haven't found the Marceau. I think like the Marceau spotting information here is really old. Yeah, exactly. The Marceau isn't even in that corner anymore, right? So they spent, what, like 5 minutes sailing up into the corner to hunt the Marceau that wasn't even there. And the friendlies are now paying a lot of again, ships, right? But, you know, at least points-wise, it's still looking good. The problem is, you know, it's over 8.5 minutes left. That's a long time. And while the friendlies do have the points lead, it's not like they are already pretty close to winning.
Problème résolu, chef.
So, looks like the Minotaur is getting a lot of hits into the friendly Halland. It's not a good thing. Hallands aren't the best open water gunboats, right? Then again, Minotaurs aren't the best at range because of the long shell travel time. So if you're a French and you're facing a Minotaur at like 11 kilometers, you're probably able to dodge a lot of the shells. And it looks even like the Minotaur has stopped shooting. So the Minotaur has realized he's not gonna win this duel against the Frenchies. So he's like, you know what, let's just go into concealment and pick a fight that I'm more suited for. Now, there are some troops going towards the Kremlin, but I highly doubt that Are they going to reach, actually? I didn't pay attention when they were launched. I mean, Marceau's troops are 9 kilometers, right? Yeah, they're actually going to reach. Nice. Now, what would be even nicer is if this Kremlin would started burning. Now, there are some more troops coming from the friendly Halland. I mean, with those... okay, the Kremlin is... it's not getting hit by those. Meanwhile, most of the friendly forces are actually now here around the B camp where the enemies are pushing in. There goes the friendly Halland, that's a shame. Now, Kampfsau was doing his best to try to stop the cap here, but, you know, he was able to keep interrupting the Kremlin for a long time, but the Minotaur just basically took this. And a lot of it will depend on, I think, how the friendlies do there on the left flank. The enemies have 2 more ships, although, for example, the Marceau is pretty low. Now, there is a... you gotta be careful here, right, with the Minotaur in it, because there could be a Hydro. The Minotaur could be close to one of the islands. We don't know, like, is the Minotaur coming around here? Is the Minotaur going B? Is he going to go through this channel? If towards the left here a Minotaur would just emerge with a Hydro, that would be not a good situation to be in. So that's why Kampfsau is going more towards the 9-10 line here. Because he just can't be sure where exactly the enemy Mino is. Meanwhile, the friendlies have actually taken some heavy losses there in the center, and the friendly Des Moines is now getting Marceau. No, the Marceau is getting Des Moines. Well, that Marceau's charge didn't work out. So now it's 2 against 4. Hey, I mean, you know, at least the Des Moines is still relatively heavy. The problem is that Des Moines is getting pushed, or, well, almost sandwiched between 2 battleships. Now, if the Des Moines goes forward, it's gonna fight the Schlieffen, and... okay, we finally saw the Minotaur. The Minotaur actually stuck around at sea. It looks like the Minotaur waited all this time and hopes to ambush the Marceau, or maybe just he wants to defend sea. I mean, I guess there is only 5 minutes left, right? The Minotaur knows that there are only the Marceau and the Des Moines left. He probably has figured he is needed against Des Moines. Sailing all the way to A2 camp takes too much time. So his best course of action is just to defend the camp that they have. Meanwhile, the enemy Schlieffen is getting pretty low there, and Kampfsau has burned himself a Widower. But can the Des Moines... oh no. Okay, the Des Moines did not manage to sink the Schlieffen, that's a shame. And the Schlieffen is... well, it's almost in range, so this is something that he could potentially finish off. And, okay, unfortunately, he is taking a lot of damage there from the Minotaur. Like, he wanted to go closer to the Schlieffen, because... Schlieffen is probably sailing out of range right now, right? But if he keeps chasing the Schlieffen, he's getting found by Minotaur. So he definitely needed to stop there and go into dodging mode. Now, of course, as a Marceau, he's a very fast ship, so he should be able to keep undetected and get out of this. So how are we doing on points, right? It's a bit less than 4 minutes left, and right now both teams have the same points income. But that will change once the enemy flips B. But you know, this looks like it's winnable by points, because the enemy is too far away from the A cap, right? I mean, on the one hand, it's still 3.5 minutes left, but 3.5 minutes, like, the map isn't that small. If that Kremlin or that Schlieffen wanna get to A, they probably are... oh, it's a radar. haven't even realized it so far. So since he is raided, he's obviously gonna shoot. He probably didn't want to, but you know. Raid ammo lasts for a while, so there's no reason to not use your guns right now. Of course, you wanna stop shooting in time, and that's exactly what he is doing right now, because there is like for 20 seconds, right after you fire your guns, you have increased concealment. So you need to stop firing 20 seconds before the radar ends, so that when the radar ends, you're immediately in concealment. So wise move there by him. He's not just focusing on dodging, and there it is, right? The radar is gone, he is now in full concealment anymore. And with his speed, he can hopefully make sure that the Minotaur won't catch him with radar in the future. So, you know, the friendly points lead really should be enough this time. So let us unlock the camera, let us speed this up, and Marceau knows that all he has to do now is sail away from everything. And there is really nothing the enemy can do because... yeah, well, not quite 57 knots, I suppose, but he does about 55 knots, and nobody can catch up with him. So the enemy team has to just sit there and be sad, because they didn't play for objectives hard enough, and that cost them the game. And actually, Marceau is gonna get a solo warrior because there are 4 enemies remaining. Which isn't that lovely. Now, there is a very low health Schlief, he might be tempted to try to sink it, but you know, he really wants to win more, I guess. I mean, with the right timing, he could get off 1 salvo. Oh yeah, there is 10 seconds left, so he's trying to shoot now because he's figured that the enemy won't be able to sink him there. Although, so he did take a small risk there because, as it turns out, the enemy shells were fast enough to reach him with about 1 salvo. But, you know, in the end, he prevailed and won the battle and earned himself 2,512 base experience. So very well done, Marceau, very well done. He earned himself a solo warrior and a widower. He only sunk 1 enemy ship, but he did 250,000 points of damage and, well, got 1 camp, defended a few. And yeah, this was a nice game to watch, I thought. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, and I'll see you next time.